Hello everyone, and welcome to Katharine's Q&A, episode 2. This is where you can ask an author pretty much anything. So let's jump right to some of the questions for today. Okay, so I have one that says, last week I mentioned the term story weaver. What is that? Okay, well for me the story weaver is a term I developed for myself, and that's because I don't really see myself as a true storyteller. Now most people know what a storyteller is, and that can range from anybody from talking around a campfire, making ghost stories off the cuff, to someone more like Homer, who was an oral poet who just was able to tell and retell epic stories that he's memorized over the years. For me, again, I think of myself as a story weaver. So to explain that concept, think of a loom. When a person weaves, they use a loom and they take all different kind of colored threads and shuttle them back and forth across each other to create a beautiful tapestry. If they make a mistake, they can undo it and start from scratch. So for me as a story weaver, kind of taking that concept of weaving on a loom, I prefer to create stories by lots of editing, taking the time to develop the characters and backstories, make sure the wording for descriptions is just right, and the action scenes, I want them to be quick and smart and fast, and dialogue to be snappy if possible, or whatever I want, I take the time to adjust and edit. So when I do let my readers get a hold of my pieces, the book is ready, absolutely great, and doesn't need doesn't have a lot of errors, and I'm not stumbling to tell you anything, kind of like I'm doing right now. But that's why I prefer story weaving, because that's the sitting down and the editing and all the time and effort it takes. So instead of you seeing all the hours it takes for me to create my book, you just see the final piece. Okay, so hopefully that explains that a little bit. Now going to maybe another question. Okay, so Molly asked, what book was my favorite to write? Now that's a trick question. Okay, trying to select a favorite book or series is virtually impossible. Each one of my series is special in its own way, and I'll give you a couple examples and try to summarize why. Going to my first series, the Incarn Saga, that's a 4-book new adult fantasy series, and it was the one where I taught myself the whole process of being an indie author and writing and editing and all the steps I needed to do. There were a lot of tears and trials along the way. For instance, though it makes sense and it sounds like something everyone would do, always make sure you save your work multiple places. When I was working with the second book, Uyer's Fangs, I actually had a computer malfunction and lost the first half of the book and had to rewrite it from scratch. So at that moment, I kind of questioned being an author multiple times, but thankfully pushed through and now have multiple series in different stages under my belt. But that series will always be special for me because it was my first. It was my learning curves. It was the first time I actually held a physical copy of my work. Since then, now I'm, looking back at it, obviously my writing has improved, my style has adjusted a little bit and evolved, and that's kind of what I think every author wants, is each subsequent story or book to be better than the one prior. Some of my newer works, for instance, the Jed Chronicles, that one was based off of my childhood characters and plots that were developed through my imaginary play along with my sister. Now, obviously, a lot of the stuff has been updated, but the story's core premises and the characters are all there. And so writing that and working on those books along the way, it's like a walk through memory lane a little bit. And then on a totally different side, I have the Guardian Speaker, which is actually debuting soon. And that one is an adult novella series that deals with Nordic mythology. And that one was totally foreign because unlike the ones prior where I did a little research here and there just, for whenever I referenced another character or creature from various myths, this one was research intensive. I have now a whole wing of my library dedicated to history books on the Nordic people during the Viking era. I've watched countless documentaries. I have a number of the Icelandic sagas and the Nordic story anthologies on the mythology. So they had a lot of research to go into it to create the work that's coming out. But each series, no matter the reason why I create them or how they come about, they're all special. Choosing one is like saying, this child's my favorite when the others can hear. So I don't really think that's fair. But hopefully that answers those questions. And let me see. Yeah, okay, that's about all my time today. So hopefully those answers my questions. And if you have any question for me, put it in the comments down below or let me know on any of my social media. And until next time, Skål.